In Canada's 1980 federal election, there's a Liberal strategist named Keith Davey, and he coined the phrase, "Screw the West, we'll take the rest." It was a blunt way of stating what is the most effective federal political strategy in Canada. You drain resources from Western Canada while pandering to the East for votes. And the tactic worked like a charm. Pierre Trudeau won a majority government over the hapless Joe Clark. Now, Justin Trudeau, he's taken Davey's advice, at least the first part of it, to heart. He never hesitates to screw the West at every possible opportunity. He's having a hard time, though, with the other part, which is taking the rest, as his polling numbers continue their free fall into record low territory for the Liberal Party of Canada. So while the strategy of regional division in federal politics is a pretty sound one, usually, it still requires a party leader with a marginal degree of competence. Now, Trudeau's latest move has been his most crass. He suspended the carbon tax applied to people's heating their homes with heating oil. Now, this was almost clever on his part, or whoever his ideas was, as it isn't overtly a regional political play. But in practice, it's very regional. There's only one part of Canada where heating oil is in common use, and that's in the Atlantic provinces. Media, politicians, and the public caught on to that tactic pretty much immediately. The gross unfairness of the policy was just too much to swallow for provincial leaders, and this is where the fracturing of this country is coming in. Saskatchewan's Premier Scott Moe is saying he's going to outright break the law and have Sask Power, the Crown Corporation that provides natural gas, that refuse to collect Justin's carbon taxes any longer. Alberta Premier Smith, of course, is threatening further use of the Sovereignty Act unless we get a break on the carbon tax to heat our homes out here in the prairies. It gets pretty cold out here. Even in BC, where it doesn't get as cold, and it's an NDP Premier Eby, he's calling for breaks for his province as well. And Ontario's Premier Doug Ford is actually calling for scrapping the carbon tax altogether, which is what Trudeau should do. Quebec, of course, they already had special status, so they're sitting quietly on the sidelines watching the cracks in national unity widening into fissures under Trudeau's leadership. I mean, they love seeing the unity going down the toilet anyways. I mean, after years of claiming the carbon tax doesn't impact the cost of living for Canadians, Trudeau just admitted the tax is causing hardship on people trying to heat their homes, at least in Atlantic Canada. I think we got to heat them out here too. People heating with natural gas, yes, we will continue to suffer under the carbon tax, because that's predominantly Western Canada. Rural Economic Development Minister, federal one, Goody Hutchings, she deserves her name mispronounced, told CTV, "I can tell you that the Liberal Atlantic Caucus was vocal with what they've heard from their constituents, and perhaps they need to elect more Liberals in the prairies so we can have that conversation as well." Yeah, and basically putting the guns to our head. It's their way of saying, vote Liberal or we're going to continue to screw you with taxes. Trudeau's always claimed that the climate issue is so important the carbon tax must remain in order to save the world. If it really has that much benefit upon the environment, though, how could he possibly reverse even a portion of such an important tax? I mean, won't some fuzzy bunnies die somewhere because the temperature went up now? Unchecked inflation. That's dogged the Liberal government since the pandemic. And now the head of the Bank of Canada has admitted the carbon tax alone is responsible for 16% of the inflation. Now, whatever little credibility Trudeau might have had on the carbon tax, it's in tatters. The tax survived court challenges due to its apparent world-saving nature. But now how can you go to court and say, well, it's there to save the world, but we'll selectively apply it here, there, and everywhere? Now something interesting is seeing the sharks within the Liberal Party. They're starting to circle. Heir apparent Mark Carney, he came out to speak on how he kind of respects Trudeau's work on the climate, but he would do things differently on the carbon tax. It's a subtle way of doing it, but his words are starting to take on the tone of a leadership contender. Others are going to come out of the woodwork as an unofficial leadership campaign begins to develop. But will Trudeau get it? Can he get it? Does he really think if he just pounds on the West hard enough, his political fortunes will change? I mean, ignoring the spirit of the Supreme Court ruling that found most of his No More Pipelines bill to be unconstitutional didn't win him any support in the East anyways, and it just infuriated the West further and made him look all the more inept with his policy development. If and when Trudeau reads the writing on the wall, what is he going to do on the way out the door, though? He desperately wants to have a legacy as a climate crusader, and he's always seen Western Canadian industries as his biggest enemy on that front. He wants to finish what his dad did and shut down the West. Will he make one more effort to crush the West, whether out of spite or misguided idealism? I wouldn't put it beyond him. Trudeau's already proven his pet climate project is more important than national unity. The fractures he's creating within the country could lead to a full shattering of the nation. I don't know. Even changing leaders, it probably won't change things, but people better start paying attention, people in the East, because you're the ones who put them there. And if you want unity in this country, you are not going to get it as long as that ass clown is our prime minister.